Hi, and welcome to session 3 in our series, Walking Together. I hope it's been quite a fun discussion in your home group as we grapple with the practical reality of walking together with people who are very, very close to us, whether it's your spouse, which is our main examples, but maybe it might be your future spouse that you're dating now, or people that you're very, very close to. Today we are looking at the inner heart, and we're looking in particular at this key verse.
Okay, the key verse for today's session is from Ephesians 4, verses 29 to 31. Let's read it with me. Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. And do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, by whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you, along with all malice. So in other words, all the feelings that we may be going through, negative feelings in particular, do not let those feelings dictate our actions. And Chris, you want to illustrate that with a story?
Yeah, so much happens inside of you. And so I like what this Bible verse is doing. It's talking about, bitterness and the things that can creep up inside of us. I think great couples pay attention to the internal conversation that is going inside of their heart and of their head. And they, which is the key point of today, they stop the negative train of thought. I love an illustration in Shaunti Feldman's book, a real life story about a couple, Nate and Liz. Nate, the guy, has been working really long hours, and he asked his wife to pick up his dry cleaning because he's in a rush. And so she promises to do that, but when the time comes and he comes back from work and he needs the dry cleaning, she forgot to do it. And he's like getting really upset because he reminded her like 3 times. But as his anger wells up, he decides to, instead of lashing out, to go down to his man cave and just like, hey, I'm going to work on a project down there. And as he works on his project, he's saying to himself, oh my goodness, you know what? I bet she had a lot of things going on. And then he remembered that today was the day that the wife had to bring their baby to the doctor, and the doctor was late. They got back late. They had to get a prescription for the kid. The wife also juggles a part-time job, and so she's also working to help cover the expenses. And he's thinking, wow, she's actually quite an incredible mom. And then he gets on and on and on about the things that the wife does to stop his train of thought that is going. And then he ends up with, oh my goodness, my dry cleaning is so minor compared to the things that she does. Why am I being such a jerk? And this example of him stopping his train of thought just by himself, he's just in the basement by himself, came out to be one of these great examples of what we see in a lot of good, healthy marriages, is that they don't rely on the other person to dig them out of their negative train of thought. The person themselves has responsibility for their own feelings.
Okay.
So let's have a look at some of these couples and how they implement it.
Yes, I think this is another topic which is fairly relevant for us and me in particular. The example that comes to mind is around cooking, and I sort of say there's 2 types of cooks in the world. There's messy cooks and then there's clean cooks, and both have their pros and cons. Em's quite a messy cook and I'm quite a clean cook. That being said, she's probably faster than I am. But this always grated on me. And, when we talk about these internal conversations, I'd be, in my head just grating through, and I'd kind of walk back in the house and, she's cooked a meal and, it's used 6 ladles and, about 4 different pots, and there's 3 chopping boards that have been used, and everything's out, right? And I'm more of the school of as I cook, I clean, and so by the end when I finish cooking, the kitchen is completely clean. And so exactly. And so for many years, this would always grate on me, but I wouldn't really say that much outwardly, and so those internal conversations that went on were quite aggravating, and I think I kind of got to this position where, as was sort of mentioned earlier, that I had to sort of stop myself and I had to change my mindset. And so, in more recent times, what I've taken to doing now is I clean while she cooks, so that we end up at the same place that I want to end up at. But rather than me just kind of in the internal conversation, I've sort of tried to change that into action. And so I think we're both a lot happier, I think, after that.
I think for me and for us, particularly when you're arguing, I think nobody gets from 0 to 100 immediately. I think for me, I realized at the onset of getting angry and potentially could escalate. So one of the things that I recognize, certainly for myself, is that when my tank is empty, then I tend to be a lot more short fused with the needs of the children or my mom, or with things around. So the key for me anyway is to recognize, look, my tank is empty, and to fill it, right, to a range of things.
And Rochester can sometimes be given to mood swings. So it's not just women with the mood swings, Rochester. But what I realized that he could go from being really happy to suddenly flipping into being annoyed or angry or short-fused or impatient really quickly without any warning. And in the early days, what I would be doing is I'll get really annoyed internally because I don't explode easily, but I'm internalizing a lot and I'm feeling resentful, I'm feeling unappreciated, I'm feeling irritated. But I think the key, the shift for me was to try to see it from his point of view, to try to understand where he's coming from. And then that completely shifted my focus from just thinking about it from my angle to thinking about it from his angle. And then that then quickly changed into, let me pray for him instead of being resentful.
So good. I think the example that comes to mind for me is like Mike's very forgetful. So he's not very good at remembering anniversaries, Mother's Day, things like that. And I think, after a couple of disappointments, it's sort of like, well, do I, just let him remember on his own and just only to be disappointed later? I think for me, the internal conversation that I have goes, well, I want this anniversary to be happy for both of us. So how do I set this up so that we succeed? And, I don't set it up for him to fail, only to point the finger and like, oh, you forgot again, or something like that. So then I tell myself, how do we make this good for both of us? How do I set us up to succeed? So, nowadays I pop it in the calendar really early, set a reminder, and basically just tell him, hey, don't forget, Mother's Day is coming soon, or something like that. And he's gotten a lot better at remembering. So, yeah.
This morning she rolled over and said, "Good morning, there's 11 months left until your next anniversary."
I would say, well done, all you young people, and you need to keep having positive things to remember, because at this particular point of time, I am just saying that I'm so grateful and I'm so blessed to be with Chris. It's not that we've had it all good. We've walked through even the valley of the shadow of death, but we've come out of it because I need to tell myself I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that Chris has done for me, that he's taken me and I can trust him, that he'll be all right in the end. And even when I'm angry, I gotta tell myself I am so grateful. And he has been a good husband, he's been a good father. And so that stopped me in my tracks.
Just before we go off into your home group discussions, I just want to end with this quote. Highly happy couples quickly stop a negative train of thought or action, replacing unhappy or angry thoughts or actions with positive ones in order to change their own feelings. And so we all have responsibility for the bitterness or the inner heart that we have. And God holds us accountable for that. And if we want to reflect Him, if we want to be imitators of God, which is what Ephesians 5:1 says, we've got to take some action inside. I hope you guys have a great discussion. God bless.